Too many thoughts on my mind, I can't sleep at night, so I just keep writing. I don't need no help, I don't need opinions, so don't waste my time.
All right, welcome everybody. You're joined here by two hosts for the new GigArena League of Legends podcast. My name's Joey. I'm joined with TJ. Hi, TJ.
Hello.
So we're going to be watching and talking about the Cloud9 versus TSM game that happened on February 15th. So why is this game important, TJ?
Well, TSM and Cloud9 are both very high ranking right now. I mean, I believe the scores at the time are 6-0 for C9 and 4-2 for TSM. They're also both very strong early game teams, so like they're known for like snowballing their game. So it's gonna be like an interesting matchup to see that kind of energy thrown both ways.
So Cloud9's currently at the top of the rankings, 6-0, and TSM, I believe, is second in the rankings, probably, with 4-2. So generally high in the rankings. Both of these teams are well known. Do you have any, general predictions going into this game?
I do feel like C9 has more energy right now. They have a lot of momentum from their previous game. So I feel like they're gonna keep that momentum flowing into this game. Especially with it just being so fast paced, it's kind of their zone.
So I think a lot of the times, I'm really gonna default to TSM. Just because I like Bjergsen. And while we're watching, this pick and ban phase, we're definitely going to be talking about, how these players are choosing their champions. So it'll be interesting to see how this pans out. So let's go right into, the pick and ban phase. Anything interesting you see from these picks?
I do notice the Soraka ban. Oh, from the picks? Sorry.
Pick and ban.
So the Soraka ban and the Syndra ban, I see stand out to me more than the others, just because Bjergsen is known for a very monstrous lane dominating Syndra, and the Soraka pick has been kind of been a priority in the pro games as of late, just because it kind of just top lane Soraka just has so much versatility because of top lane already being like an island, so like she can just scale up at the time she wants to, and then you have a second support, which is always a
plus she reaches level 6 early with her solo lane, and then she gets to ult, a nice juicy ult for the bot lane where everything revolves around. 2 people get a full instant heal. It's a lot of value across the map.
Yeah, it's very easy to spread the wealth as a Soraka, where your entire existence is just CSing and sustaining.
Now, I do see a Yasuo ban, and I also see an Aphelios ban. Do you think these players are too strong?
Yasuo is strong, especially in Pro League, I would say, just because you have the team synergy. Yasuo in like normal solo duo scenario doesn't feel as overwhelming because you can't rely on your teams to set up plays for you, which is a lot of what makes Yasuo such a carry. Aphelios in pro play you can set up a lot. There's a lot of synergy. These guys are practicing with each other a lot. So I mean, like they know how to set up these engages. They know how to funnel resources appropriately, which makes him much more of a threat. The Aphelios is just really strong. I mean,
especially on a challenger AD carry who can utilize all of his weapons.
Yeah, I mean, like there's so much versatility and so much to keep track of when it comes to Aphelios that it really isn't so much as a matter of keeping him down. It's like trying to basically just avoid him landing his ult, because like as soon as he lands that, he's just going to obliterate anyone in his path.
I feel the same. So banning him is probably just a general effort towards let's not lose, especially if the first pick has the option of getting in the first 3 bans.
Yeah, I'd imagine as an AD carry he is a priority just because of his versatility and strength.
So now I haven't played a lot of these champions. I haven't played Renekton, and I haven't played Kiana or Elise. But going into this, when I look at Cloud9's full team comp versus TSM's full team comp, kind of looks relatively balanced. I see a Renekton essentially versus Set. Although they're not in the same lane, it's a Renekton and it's a Set. I see an Akali and I see a Kiana. I see two assassins, AP assassin, or well, not AP, but two assassins, AP, almost burst junglers, and tank supports. Other than that, I mean, there's a little bit of differences as far as the team fights go and their logic. But do you potentially see any like overbearing weaknesses or strengths on either of these teams?
Well, I do see that Renekton is a very strong mid laner. He's not often played mid, but because of just how he works with press the attack and it's very easy to burst people. So when you're in a lane where someone's melee and squishy, Renekton just has like an overwhelming presence in that lane.
Do you think this is something that they should like prioritize then? If potentially they're up against someone like Kiana, for pro players in general?
For pro players, it is a little more difficult to say. I mean, like, the Renekton is a priority to a degree. I'd say more in this team comp, getting the bot lane ahead would be the major priority. I mean, just as it stands alone, if Kiana gets too close to Renekton, he could instantly make her regret it. And I mean, like, the one thing that Kiana does have going for her in that matchup is that she does have a little bit of mobility with her dashes, but that will only get you so far because Renekton has his gap closers as well.
Right. And I'm not sure. I think I've played him like once, but does he have two dashes? He has two, right?
He does have two, but he has to hit an enemy first to get the second one.
So so we're gonna take a small cut. We're gonna watch through part of this game, and we'll record our live reactions, and then we'll come back.
For themselves, and it is AP. So with Akali also being majority AP damage, I'm expecting actually maybe an AD laner here for TSM to come on round 5.
Champions, but the clock hasn't been one of them. That's a lot of words. Those are pretty small, but we got some fans from, one says C9, one says TSM. I know they're on opposite sides, but they're sitting right next to each other. These are the kinds of games that divide friends and fans. The crowd is rowdy, and I am about it. Everyone is ready for C9 versus TSM, and as we're waiting for minions to spawn, we got Ovely standing by with a sideline report with Reaper. Take it away.
Thanks, guys. I've got Reaper. There we go. Now we have the Cloud9 chance behind us. Reaper, you're coming into this big match for Cloud9 against TSM. A lot of...
He gets that ulti ready to go. And remember, Kiana is so effective at roaming around the map, setting plays up with the rest of her team. We'll see if Bjergsen can shut that down, or if Niski will be able to group up with the rest of Cloud9 and work together to get things running after this less than optimal early game. TSM still sitting on a 1,000 gold lead. Cloud9 with that first dragon in their pocket. See who decides to go for the next big move. It was C9 that, again, made that call for the fight that TSM won, which has been uncharacteristic. That's kind of iconic of the old Blabber. The Blabber that felt more coin flippy. Is he going to have a crazy good aggressive game, or is he going to end up... Dardoch is under fire. He has to back away. Cloud9 already have one Nexus turret down. Bjergsen behind enemy lines. Gonna go ahead, cast the dominance right now, but he's not able to make it onto anyone valuable here just yet. Niski goes golden. He'll stay just fine. Dardoch also going to be using the stasis here. Licorice keeps everybody else away, and Bjergsen's going to be taken out following his jungler. Biofrost, the next one to go. Kave 2. And ladies and gentlemen, they just make it look easy. Cloud9 win.
And the undefeated streak continues.
Okay, we're back. So we've just watched the game. So what'd you think, TJ?
I thought it was kind of just what I expected. It was a very high tempo game, and I mean, like, it was just constant kills. I think the defining moment of like how this pace was gonna be was during the first where Kiana and the Elise go in after Renekton and then get counter ganked by the Gragas. It ended up with first Elise losing her life, and then shortly after Kiana gets stuck in the Baron pit and they finish her off.
So you think that first blood really set a tempo for the start of the game?
Yeah,
start of
because
the game.
immediately after that, it was just constant rotations, groupings, dive. For a pro game, for how short this was a relatively bloody game.
True. And I definitely see that being a big factor in this type of game when you see two mega strong teams that would normally either crush their opponent or, figure out a way to win their game, which could mean, waiting a long time towards the end. A bloody game like this is actually super exciting. And it really does set a tone for this game.
I mean, like, other than that, I mean, like, it was both teams just constantly responding to each other.
So
I mean,
it seemed to me that there was a decent amount of early game back and forth where they were fighting for a lot of control. If you see towards the middle, when Cloud9 actually ends up taking the lead, they almost dominate. The trends of the game, like what's happening, what's the next objective, and it looks like TSM is starting to more like react and have damage control.
I mean, all the pro teams know how to use a small advantage. But Cloud9, because of just their playstyle and their organization, knows how to really push even the smallest leads. I mean, like, these guys get nuts over their enemy laner missing a canyon. The same way like low elo gets over a kill.
I've noticed actually a lot of the ganks and team fights happen pretty much early, where so this was a pretty short game in my opinion. It wasn't like a super long drawn out game. It was a nice quick 20-25 minute game. When I saw a lot of these ganks, a lot of these plays that affect the game so quickly, I have to wonder, how important, how strong is that kind of gank? And I see like a lot of 3-4 man ganks in these pro plays, especially. You think that's like a deciding factor? Moving a lot of your players, getting a nice advantage, and quickly, running with it.
Well, it is a deciding factor. I mean, like, in pro play, it is just inevitability. If you blow a sum or you sit there and lose your ult, they're just going to group up and take that advantage while they have it. So the rotations from both mobile mid laners really just made it very possible to get around the map and get together and be together during important team fights. There's not really, in my opinion, many instances in pro play where, someone's not really to the fight.
So, I mean, in this case, I see, not Cloud9, but TSM actually took 2 teleports. Kali and Renekton both have teleport this game. And they use them rather efficiently. If I've seen all the fights, they react by teleporting immediately, and whether it's following a lane to making a play, they utilize it, and I think that's what kept them in the game for so long. They were trying to make plays and react well.
Yeah, teleport in the mid lane is actually a very common strat, just because it allows you to get more of a presence. I mean, like, these games are decided quick. 30-second decisions, even shorter. I mean, like, sometimes it has to be like a split-second decision where you have to decide if you're going in or not. And like because they always have that confidence in each other, that teamwork, synergy, and a lot of the times, like, it is just reacting to what you see immediately. Like, these guys don't really have like a huge amount of time to plan out and be like, okay, you ult this way, you ult that way. And I mean like that is another big factor I felt like in this game with the Gragas misfortune, because like synergizing those two ults is very very difficult to accomplish.
In its own way, Gragas has that ability to always provide CC and a little bit of negotiation around, providing players with opportunities. So I can see the pick, but I also see the point. I've also noticed that I think Cloud9 pretty much took all the objectives. Is that like an attest to the amount of control they had?
They did, because they had their lead. When they roamed together, they had a lot of map pressure and just control. Their warding is always very on point. It's always crucial location. It didn't seem that there were many times where like Cloud9 didn't have an idea of where their enemy was. So I think just having that lead, having that little bit of pressure puts a little bit of hesitation in TSM, and that allows Cloud9 to kind of work the map.
There definitely was a huge vision game this game, whether it was Cloud9, pushing towards objectives and placing their vision, or even TSM placing a lot of vision to prevent Cloud9 from taking their territory. So I definitely see the vision game in this game.
And also, I mean, like they did focus on getting lots of picks before taking objectives. Like it felt like this game, like everything snowballed into the next very very fluently.
Yeah. In both of our predictions, actually, we talked about TSM, but apparently Cloud9, played on a almost different level than TSM. They were like almost on a different page throughout the game, especially after the first 5 minutes, when essentially Cloud9 started taking their lead.
Yeah, I feel these, like I previously said, these players know how to push small advantages.
They're not playing around.
Yeah, it's very difficult in this kind of setting to regain your footing once someone's already on the attack.
Right.
Because it's just going to constantly be pressure. They don't, Cloud9 especially does not like to slow down the tempo. They don't like to give the chance to the enemy to scale or to set up their own plays, set up vision. They just like it fast-paced, constant, so it kind of like rattles.
That kind of shot calling is almost like a basic deciding factor for these pro games and league games in general, right? Where if you don't make the right call in time, or if you do make the right call in time, it can make or break the game. Generally speaking, we're both around plat elo, so we're not diamond, we're not master, grandmaster, challenger, and even we won't be able to spot a lot of the things. But for our viewers back home who are potentially gold, silver, bronze, iron even, when they're watching these pro games, what do you think they need to look for to potentially learn from them?
I think the biggest thing that they need to look for is really like the lane matchup, right? Like important little details, such as like after you clearing a wave, moving from your lane if you're mid lane, just basically like working more as a team, because it seems around Arilo and lower that the typical trend is like the jungler ganks by himself, but you notice in these games it's never just the jungler, it's the jungler in the top, it's the jungler in the mid, and like just working with your team to make the probability of ganks more likely.
Watching the other players and knowing how many people you're up against, and sending, say, maybe one more person than them, and then even working against the other team's benefits, advantages.
The other thing is the one thing that's different about like lower elo versus pro games is that like you pick around your team in pro play, right? Like it's not like everyone's a solo carry. It's like everyone sits there and picks their job,
Right.
does it. It doesn't in solo carry. It's more random. No, there's no like synergy. It's just whoever someone wants to play. So I think it's a different mindset to pick for what your team has opposed to just picking what you're comfortable with. But I mean, like, with experience, that would change in lower elo.
So I mean, I've noticed that a lot of players in lower elos don't actually understand, map movement, and I can see why it's hard to know, like, hey, these players are going towards these objectives for these reasons. Why are they taking a fight that looks so bad from one perspective? So, like, when I look at all this, I'm thinking, where does the information come from? Is this like we want to target this objective because it's under threat right now, or is it we want to take it because we have the opportunity to take it right now? So I think a lot of lower elo players need to recognize that there's a time and an optimal time to start taking certain objectives. And if the opportunity presents itself, for example, if a jungler is in the top side, a lot of the times you think, hey, if your jungler's in the top side, or if the enemy jungler's in the top side and your jungler's in the bot side, go take drag. Something as simple as you have pressure, work with your pressure. I've also noticed that a lot of the times it's insanely important, but direct shot calling towards your laner being missing, where they're going, to alert your teammates that, hey, there's going to be one more player in this group fight that is essential towards winning that team fight.
On that, I would feel that on the optimal time versus the time to take it, I feel like that is a very, very important aspect of it, because like there's a lot of times where lower elo, they sit there, they see that the tower is low, and they get fixated on taking it right away instead of taking a step back and just making it possible for like dives and stuff, because the tower is already low, so you have it. So I feel like a lot of lower elo players sit there and get into this trap where they push the tower too hard, and then the enemy team engages a fight, and now you're stuck there trying to hit the tower, because if you don't hit them, you get the tower aggro. But
Right.
yeah, so I feel like that is a very important aspect of like understanding laning and just understanding like.
I think that's like really shown in this game where, like almost 15 minutes in, 2 drags were taken. I believe a rift is also taken, but only 1 tower is taken so far. And it's a lot of like movement throughout the map just to get these permanent objectives. Even the towers are permanent objectives, but objectives that are insanely helpful when you're thinking about the whole team fight around the objectives. And the fact that potentially there will be a team fight, and there should be a team fight for these permanent objectives. So acknowledging that over, when a certain push is necessary, or over pushing is unnecessary.
Yeah, well that comes with like a lot of understanding how waves are. I do notice that a lot of people don't get that, like sometimes you just have to let the tower or let the minions come a bit, and like even if there's only one minion fighting like an army of 20, they'll stand way too close. Just what's the word? It's just like that positioning.
Yeah.
The a lot of low elo players don't understand that, like they walk up and put themselves into awkward positions and think it's just happened
Okay.
because it had to happen.
But more importantly, there's a better positioning for yourself where you're deciding whether it's the farm or your life or a combination of both that's important.
Yeah. And you'll notice in like these pro games, the support and the AD carry are always positioned within a safe enough distance to help each other out if it needs to be, and I notice is what a lot of low elo players struggle with in the bot lane. They constantly are just moving back and forth at what almost seems aimlessly.
Going back on the farming and even your wave topic, a lot of the players, so especially low elo players, they don't understand the full value of wave management, and it seems like watching some pro games might give you an inkling towards why it's important to have wave management. If your wave's too pushed, then you should be understanding the ganking procedures for the enemy jungler. Clearing and pushing it also gives you the opportunity of roaming because your laners have to deal with that.
It is like I previously stated. It is like a different mentality because you're not going in as 5. So lower elo doesn't really get to see the benefits of it. They're always just on with other random players, and they've never met these people, so they don't have any synergy. They don't know what they're gonna do. So like it's really important to basically clarify what you're doing, and that's a skill that, like, even if you're only using pings, the pings are enough to explain like almost any situation. I feel like it it's an underrated skill to sit there and be able to cast ping.
Do you think a lot of the times some players are just generally better than other players, and maybe that's why they should get, say, more priority, more farm even? Um, in this case, I see both the 80 carries are acting well. Okay, maybe not both, but Cloud9's 80 carry is acting a little bit as like a funnel. They tend to send the 80 carry to the lanes, pick up the farm, and that it might even mean to the top lane and the mid lane falling a little bit behind, but it means that their Varus gets at least 10 plus CS a minute, which is optimal.
I feel that's more of a compositional um like requirement. Like you always want your 80 carry to get farm because a lot of the times, at least early, they're not gonna be the ones picking up the kills. Just because their damage takes a little bit more time to ramp up.
And they don't want to be in unnecessary positions too often, especially if they want to be in the positioned well towards the back, putting out damage without dying.
So it really depends on what your composition is, whether you want to funnel gold, but typically the way that I see this is like, I mean, the 80 carry, you always want the 80 carry to get farm. That is just a fact. But you really need to spread the gold regardless. Usually it's like a cycle. Typically it's like mid gets the gold early through kill pressure and then presses at other areas. And that, I mean, like the mid should for most cases be a second jungler. And it really, even if you're behind, like that's another aspect of it. Like spreading the gold, whether you're ahead or behind, is equally important. Because it's just like a matter of fact, like if you win the lane, right, you need to spread the gold because you're strong right now, and if you lose the lane, you have to spread the gold because you have to get relevant.
With the Kiana in the mid lane, who essentially got really ahead, but spread that wealth by roaming and essentially getting the Varus up ahead in both farm and kills. And once they match, hey, all of our lanes are generally ahead of all of their lanes. Each lane is ahead of each lane. Then we can start focusing on our carries. Now that we've watched the game and we have our overall opinions, how do you think like Cloud9 did?
I mean, Cloud9 performed very well. They like I predicted, sat there and kept the tempo, kept the game fast paced, and basically worked it how they wanted to play. And that
TSM.
TSM, I also felt did well. I mean, like they for a little bit, it was a tit for tat situation where it was just like constant fighting, and they'd take what they can get. C9 would get what they would get.
Right.
And then it felt even for a little bit, but C9 is just very good at pressing their advantages.
Although there's a big factor of like potentially the late game of how it panned out to them, Cloud9 getting fed in their late game and how they took fights. I do think that a lot of the choices made and the picks and attempts by TSM to come back, the fights that they were taking just kept getting pushed back immediately. Cloud9 saying no. You can try that, but we're just going to kill whoever tries to make a play. And like that kind of speaks to me on another level when you immediately shut down an attempt to come back.
It is a very different like environment because everyone is so good that it's hard to keep composure under pressure just because they know exactly with pings and whatnot, exactly when your flash is up, exactly when your summoners are up. So it's very difficult to sit there and try and get back into a position.
The right opportunities. There's some bad ways to come back in, but if you obviously make those calls or do them wrong, or the other team's prepared, it suddenly becomes a really bad play instead of a good play in their mind. Especially if you're not really in sync with the rest of your team. Getting pushed back like TSM did really put them in the position of defense rather than offense. So making offensive plays sometimes would catch their team off guard. So do you have anything else to add to this game, TJ? Do you have any final opinions about like what this game, how it panned out? What you think about the players and if they performed well even?
Well, as I said, like they all performed well to the best situation that they were in. I do feel like this is a big sign that Cloud9 is going to keep their momentum up and really drive them to possibly even get well placed in Worlds this year. They seem like with all their changes to the roster that they really found a synergy together, and it really seems like their work's pulled off.
TSM potentially has the same chance, even though they took a big risk by putting like a Kali in the top, Renekton mid, and AP Gragas, squishy Gragas in the jungle. Do you think they did this to test the waters? Maybe they were trying to make a new meta for themselves, test that out? Or do you think like this is their be all end all, now they're going to start falling?
It is interesting because there's a lot of things that I think TSM has going for them that could be like potential make or breaks. Broken Blade's very like versatile. I know that he hasn't played like the same champion, so I feel like right now that may be a sign that they haven't quite figured out what kind of strat they want yet, and this could be just a scenario of them testing the water.
Playoffs? Yeah, I think it might be almost 200 IQ. Use the real game as a scrim.
I do believe it's okay, but I really don't. It's hard to say where they're going to go with their compositional choices when it goes into, because it's they may have so much versatility that they're having trouble deciding on like what their specifications are, and I think they do have a lot of high hopes to do well, but right now I'm fairly confident.
Yeah, this game definitely showed that Cloud9 has a higher level gameplay and a definite response to things that should be happening on the map. Whereas TSM, although they did perform really well, their overall team fights and the outcome did not match what they had intended for this. But Cloud9, of course, was almost steady in their gold increase, in their plays, in their movement around the map. So we definitely won't be, talking about every game. We won't be making a podcast about every game, but this was a strong enough game and an important game in this late game of playoffs that we definitely wanted to talk about. If you have anything else to add, TJ?
No, I think that's about it for me.
And this has been Joey and TJ's GigArena podcast. We'll think of a great title for you, and you'll get a great idea from it. Thank you all for watching.
Have a good night. Bye.
Too many thoughts on my mind, I can't sleep at night, so I just keep writing. I don't need no help, I don't need opinions, so don't waste my time.